The U.S. has long used tariffs as a tool to influence global trade relations, protect domestic industries, and address trade imbalances. However, in recent years, the U.S. has significantly increased its use of tariffs, particularly under the Trump administration and into 2025, impacting a variety of industries and countries. These tariff policies, including both import duties and trade sanctions, have had profound effects not only on U.S. economic interests but also on global trade relations. Countries around the world have been forced to adjust, whether by retaliating with their own tariffs, seeking alternative trade partners, or re-evaluating their long-term trade strategies. This video explores the top 10 effects of recent U.S. tariffs on global trade relations. 1. Escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and China. One of the most significant effects of recent U.S. tariffs has been the intensifying trade conflict between the U.S. and China. The U.S. imposed billions of dollars in tariffs on Chinese goods, with China retaliating by targeting U.S. exports. These tensions led to a trade war that affected global supply chains, caused market volatility, and resulted in reduced trade flows between the two largest economies in the world. Despite the Phase 1 trade agreement signed in 2020, tariffs remain in place, continuing to strain U.S.-China relations. 2. Retaliatory tariffs by affected countries. In response to U.S. tariff measures, many affected countries have implemented retaliatory tariffs on American goods. For example, the European Union and Canada introduced tariffs on a range of U.S. products such as motorcycles, agricultural goods, and whiskey. Similarly, Mexico and other countries targeted American products, impacting industries like agriculture, automotive, and technology. This tit-for-tat tariff approach has escalated trade disputes and resulted in a decline in trade between the U.S. and its major trading partners. 3. Disruption of global supply chains. The imposition of U.S. tariffs has led to significant disruptions in global supply chains. As companies face higher costs for importing raw materials, components, and finished products, they have been forced to seek alternative suppliers or move production to other regions. This shift in sourcing has disrupted long-established trade routes and complicated the logistics of global manufacturing. Countries heavily reliant on exports to the U.S. or imports from the U.S. have had to adjust their supply chains, leading to inefficiencies and higher operational costs. 4. Re-evaluation of trade agreements and alliances. In light of U.S. tariffs, many countries have begun to re-evaluate their trade agreements and alliances. Some nations, including the European Union and Canada, have sought to strengthen their economic ties to other regions, such as Asia and Latin America, to mitigate the impact of U.S. tariffs. The U.S.'s trade policies have also prompted countries to reconsider their membership in multilateral trade agreements, with some choosing to focus on bilateral deals that better suit their national interests. 5. Shifts in global trade partnerships. The trade tensions sparked by U.S. tariffs have accelerated shifts in global trade partnerships. For instance, China has increased its trade ties with countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, seeking to diversify its trade relationships away from the U.S. Similarly, the EU has forged closer ties with countries in Asia, including Japan and South Korea, in response to the uncertainty created by U.S. tariffs. These shifts have led to new trade routes, new agreements, and a more multipolar global trading system. 6. Impact on developing countries. Developing countries, particularly those in Asia and Africa, have been caught in the crossfire of the U.S.-China trade war and other tariff disputes. These countries often rely on exports to both the U.S. and China, and the imposition of tariffs has made their products more expensive and less competitive in these markets. As a result, many developing countries have faced a slowdown in their economies, a decline in trade revenues, and challenges in securing new markets for their goods. 7. Pressure on multinational corporations. Multinational corporations have faced considerable challenges due to the rise in U.S. tariffs. These companies, which often operate in multiple countries, have been forced to navigate a more complex and unpredictable global trade environment. In some cases, corporations have shifted their production lines and supply chains to avoid tariffs, while others have had to absorb the increased costs. The uncertainty surrounding U.S. tariffs has forced businesses to adapt rapidly, often at significant financial and strategic cost. 8. Increased focus on protectionism. The recent U.S. tariff policies have fueled a broader trend toward protectionism around the world. In some cases, countries have followed the U.S. lead by implementing their own tariffs or increasing subsidies to domestic industries to shield them from foreign competition. While protectionism can provide short-term benefits for certain industries, it often leads to inefficiencies in the long run and can harm consumers through higher prices and reduced choice. 9. Shift toward regional trade agreements. In response to the unpredictability of U.S. tariffs, many countries have turned to regional trade agreements as a more stable and predictable alternative. For instance, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, in Asia have gained momentum. These agreements allow countries to deepen economic ties within their regions, reducing their reliance on U.S. markets and mitigating the impact of tariff-related disruptions. 10. Global economic slowdown. The cumulative impact of the U.S. tariff measures has contributed to a slowdown in global economic growth. As trade barriers rise, businesses face higher costs and reduced access to foreign markets, which can stifle innovation and investment. The trade war between the U.S. and China, in particular, has dampened global demand, leading to slower growth in key markets. For emerging economies, this slowdown has resulted in reduced exports, lower foreign investment, and weaker economic prospects. The recent U.S. tariffs have had far-reaching effects on global trade relations, creating both challenges and opportunities for countries and businesses around the world. While U.S. industries may benefit from greater protection in domestic production, the broader consequences of tariff imposition have disrupted established trade partnerships, fueled protectionism, and prompted shifts in global supply chains. As countries adapt to the evolving trade landscape, it is clear that these tariffs have reshaped not only U.S. trade relations but also the structure of global trade itself. Moving forward, it remains to be seen how these policies will influence long-term trade dynamics and whether the world will return to a more cooperative, multilateral trading system or continue to experience the rise of regionalism and protectionism.